this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
It's an Olympics you'll never forget. Prime time in Milan. The moments.
Chloe Kim with the gold medal flex.
The stars.
Ilya Malinin.
Out of this world.
The spectacle from beautiful northern Italy with very special guests every night of the Olympics. Experience the world's biggest show. Prime time in Milan. Tonight, 8/7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
The big game commercials are basically must-see TV. This year, Elf Cosmetics went all out with an absurdly funny telenovela called Melissa. It stars Melissa McCarthy, Nicholas Gonzalez, Itati Cantoral, and Elf Glow Reviver Lip Oil. The Elf Glow Reviver Lip Oil is an ultra-glossy tinted lip oil that nourishes, hydrates, and enhances your lips' natural color.
Watch the full episode of their new Elf novela on soyunbaño.com.
Ever wonder why so many people regain weight after stopping a GLP-1? Up to 40% of the weight lost can come from lean muscle. This weakens the body, slows metabolism, and makes it easier to put the pounds back on, creating a cycle of dependency. Prolon's 5-day fasting-mimicking diet offers a drug-free way to maintain results and support long-term metabolic health. In just 5 days, it activates fasting pathways to burn fat, protect muscle, and rejuvenate cells, all while letting you enjoy real food. Get 15% off plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe at prolonlife.com/iHeart. That's prolonlife.com/iHeart.
Over the last couple years, didn't we learn that the folding chair was invented by Black people because of what happened in Alabama?
The Montgomery Brawl.
This Black History Month, the podcast Selective Ignorance with Mandy B unpacks Black history and culture with comedy, clarity, and conversations that shake the status quo. The Crown Act in New York was signed in July of 2019, and that is a bill that was passed to prohibit discrimination based on hairstyles associated with race. To hear this and more, listen to Selective Ignorance with Mandy B from the Black Effect Podcast Network on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson. It is great to have you here for our new weekly show. If you joined us last week, you know we have a house DJ named Tolliver. Hi, Tolliver.
Hey, Jeremy. How's it going? It's our second show. We're growing up so fast.
Growing up so fast. You're joining us today from Colorado Public Radio in Denver, bouncing across the country. And when it comes to the country, Tolliver, the House is not in order right now. The House of Representatives, of course, and maybe we will find out next week if they can agree on a replacement for former Speaker Kevin McCarthy, who was ousted this week. Maybe Kevin McCarthy should have called into our show last week when we were talking about how to talk with people you disagree with politically.
Well, maybe he did.
I don't think so. I listened to the voicemails. I don't think he did, but we did get some great ones, and we listened to those voicemails. Let's listen to some of those calls that came in.
My name is Karen. I'm calling from Baldwin, Missouri.
The name is Donald. I'm in Houston, Texas.
My name is Krista Kaiger. I am a Presbyterian minister. I live in Eudora, Kansas.
Noah Patterson from Cape May, New Jersey. Ultimately starts with an individual's personal choice to be open to listen, and then from there it's a lot of how you frame the question. I disagree sounds a lot different than you are wrong.
I think what we're actually experiencing is a return to how politics were back at the beginning of the civil rights movement, which is my earliest memory as a 60-plus-year-old woman of color.
One of the things you have to do to disagree with people who are disagreeing with you is say, excuse me, how about giving me an example of what it is you disagree with? And I'll do the same.
Creating that spiritual space where we invite people to listen, even in our differences. Folks in our congregation can still get along even if they arrive at different places.
Just some great calls last week. Thank you if you called in. But in addition to some of the drama we just talked about on Capitol Hill, we also got word this week that the interest rate on a 30-year fixed mortgage is now averaging almost 8%, causing mortgage demand to drop to the lowest level since 1996. So, Tolliver, the question we are asking this hour is,
how are higher interest rates and inflation affecting you?
And what is our phone number?
It's 8444-MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353. You can also write to us at listentothemiddle.com. And if you want to buy me a house while you're at it, I'm good with that.
And by the way, I encourage people to go to listentothemiddle.com and write to us there or through our social media channels, which are linked to there, because we have a new phone system and we're still working out the kinks right now. So let's get to our panel guest. Joining me from Austin, Texas, David Brown, host of the Business Wars podcast. He's also managing editor and host of Texas Standard from station KUT. David, it is great to have you here.
It's great to be invited to join you all. Thanks so much, Jeremy.
And I want to ask you, just because you're in Texas, which is a state, by the way, that even when the economy is kind of floundering in other places, Texas likes to talk about how its economy is doing great. How does it feel right now, inflation-wise, to you in Texas?
It hurts. I think it hurts a lot of folks all over. I think we've all felt a pinch of somewhere between a quarter to a third of an increase in prices for consumer goods. I'll tell you what's not hurting us so much. I was out in California talking with an Uber driver, and I mean, we're not suffering from the gas prices, and energy is such an important and volatile component when it comes to inflation. So there, gas prices are higher than they have been, but they're not outrageously high as high as they have been in past recent years. So, getting along fine, but I say getting along fine, not everyone's getting along fine.
Right.
And a lot of people are really hurting.
And we're going to get to that as we get into this show. Let me bring in our other guest from St. Louis, Missouri, Juli Niemann, financial analyst with Smith Moore and Company. Juli, great to have you on the show as well.
Great to be here.
And how do things feel from your vantage point as you talk to your clients and other people in St. Louis when it comes to inflation right now?
Well, inflation and interest rates were made total linkage just because of Jerome Powell. But inflation's the thing that's really hitting people and hitting home, because it covers not only the poor, but it covers also middle class and low middle class who are making it, but they don't have much room for a margin of error here. It's really hitting them on food and energy, the two big drivers here. Yeah. And until we see some breaks in that, you're going to be seeing all of income going out that way and more debt taking on. So that's where you're really suffering.
Juli, we do know that from a high level that inflation has been coming down over the last year. Does it feel like that?
Some areas it has, but service inflation has gone up and continues to go up. There's not much break in housing prices. You're still seeing pretty sticky there because that has been a long-term shortage, and you're not getting massive building there either. So it's strong demand. And that's why Powell's going to have a tough time with inflation. Some of it he can't fix. When you have strong long-term shortage in housing, strong long-term demand in areas, there's nothing you can do about that.
You brought up Jerome Powell a couple of times, the Fed chair. David Brown, is he the one with the magic wand here? People are going to blame President Biden. They might blame Congress if things don't get better from an inflation perspective. But how much power does Jerome Powell have to fix this problem?
Has a lot, and he doesn't have very much, doesn't have enough. One of the reasons I love talking about business is because, these are numbers. We can all agree on a kind of a baseline, right? You can look at the data and you can say, this is what's real. Now, what do we make of that? Whereas in politics, often you have two or three narratives built around, the same set of facts. So I really think that when it comes to the power that of the Fed, we're talking about the Open Market Committee primarily, and I wouldn't put a whole lot of weight in one particular person, although there have been people, Ben Bernanke comes to mind, who have been instrumental in trying to deal with this issue in the past, and who are kinds of lions in economics. But to be honest, I think a better perspective is less looking at the personalities. And I don't say this very often, but I think that it's less a look at the personalities and more a look at what this grouping of people who meet several times over the course of a year and talk about the direction of the economy, where they are leaning. And I think one of the best gauges of making that determination or trying to get a consensus around what it is, where the Federal Open Market Committee is leaning, I think you look at Wall Street, you look at the markets, so.
And what
I
are you
don't
seeing
put
when you look at the markets right now? I mean, we've had a lot of bad days in the markets recently.
Yeah, we have. Those vacuum gauges on a car where it shows you whether or not you're using too much gas or you're not using. I mean, you're saving. All right. Well, if you've ever noticed on those vacuum gauges, if you step on the gas, you're burning up a lot of gas, and it's showing that, it's showing that your fuel consumption is too high. So you back off just a little bit, and it seems to line up. You're in that eco mode now, right? You're in that groove. But if you'll notice, if you're not giving it enough gas, pretty soon your fuel efficiency will drop off the other direction. And I think of Wall Street as kind of doing that. It's that sort of vacuum gauge. It's telling us just how efficiently things are running. And right now, that's all out of whack. I mean, if you go on, I was just on Market Watch a moment ago. Mm-hmm. And here's the headline. The stock market is building up to a major buy signal. All right. Now, right below that headline in the picture that accompanies it is an opinion piece. Stock market oversold. So, you're going to see all kinds of different takes on what's happening with the market. It'll be up one day, down the next. But I think a better read is to try to sort of synthesize a consensus around which way the market's headed and what that marketplace is trying to tell us.
Julie?
Well, an intrinsic to that is that you have the real market indicator is where earnings are going, the quality of earnings that come out of it, because jolly numbers are out there all the time and earnings are artificially kited. We know that.
Yeah.
But when earnings are reviewed in terms of quality earnings, you know which direction the market ultimately is going to discount. Right now, the quality of earnings is not good. There are so many accounting gimmicks and jolly numbers that Wall Street is using to inflate earnings for one major reason, make them look better than they are, because that's how everybody's compensated, that you really do have not an oversold market. You probably still have a lot of froth in the market, especially in certain sectors. You take a look at the Magnificent Seven. Are these semi-tech companies really worth all that money? You're looking at artificial intelligence discounted for the next 50 years when the price earnings multiple. It's a little hard to believe on that. So there's still a lot of froth out there.
We're talking about these things like the markets and mortgages. I want to point out that there are a lot of people who do not own homes, are not invested in big ways in the market. And in fact, when you look at the numbers, people who are renting feel inflation in some cases more than people who are homeowners, David.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's no question about that. And in fact, we're seeing certainly here in the Austin area, but I think in Texas, which has had extraordinary growth over the past 4 years or so, a real housing crunch. I was reading the other day about this Airbnb effect and what that means for real estate. And the point that was being made was that now you have a market for people who are looking for places to buy and basically rent out. That's in a perfect world. Of course, with interest rates as high as they are right now, not a lot of people wanting to go out and buy, but those who do buy are heavily capitalized, which means they have a lot of money. And it's not everyday folks. And that means that there's a real fight for a lot of those rental spaces. And that allows those prices to drift upwards. And it's contributing. I mean, we see it as a major factor in what we call our rising inflation rates.
David Brown, host of Business Wars and Texas Standard. And don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more of The Middle.
It's an Olympics you'll never forget. Prime time in Milan. The moments.
Chloe Kim with the gold medal flex.
The stars.
Julia Niemann.
Out of this world.
The spectacle from beautiful northern Italy with very special guests every night of the Olympics. Experience the world's biggest show. Prime time in Milan, tonight 8/7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
Welcome to the A Building. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba. It's 1969. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. had both been assassinated, and Black America was at a breaking point. Rioting and protests broke out on an unprecedented scale.
In Atlanta, Georgia, at Martin's alma mater, Morehouse College, the students had their own protest. It featured two prominent figures in Black history, Martin Luther King Sr. and a young student, Samuel L. Jackson.
To be in what we really thought was a revolution. I mean, people were dying.
1968, the murder of Dr. King, which traumatized everyone.
The FBI had a role in the murder of a Black Panther leader in Chicago.
This story is about protest. It echoes in today's world far more than it should, and it will blow your mind.
Listen to The A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Ryder Strong, and I have a new podcast called The Red Weather.
It was many and many a year ago in a kingdom by the sea.
In 1995, my neighbor, Anna Trainer, disappeared from a commune.
It was hard to wrap your head around. It was nature and trees and praying and drugs.
So no, I am not your guru.
And back then, I lied to my parents, I lied to police, I lied to everybody.
There were years, Ryder, where I could not say your name.
I've decided to go back to my hometown in Northern California, interview my friends, family, talk to police, journalists, whomever I can, to try to find out what actually happened.
Isn't it a little bit weird that they obsess over hippies in the woods and not the obvious boyfriend?
They have had this case for 30 years.
I'll teach you sons of to come around here with my wife. Boom, boom.
This is The Red Weather. Listen to The Red Weather on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Segregation in the day, integration at night.
When segregation was the law, one mysterious black club owner had his own rules.
We didn't worry about what went on outside. It was like stepping in another world.
Inside Charlie's Place, black and white people danced together. But not everyone was happy about it.
You saw the KKK?
Yeah, they was dressed up in their uniform.
The KKK set out to raid Charlie, take him away from here.
Charlie was an example of power. They had to crush him.
From Atlas Obscura, Rococo Punch, and Visit Myrtle Beach comes Charlie's Place, a story that was nearly lost to time. Until now. Listen to Charlie's Place on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson. If you're just tuning in, we are a national call-in show focused on elevating voices from the middle, geographically, politically, and philosophically, or maybe you just want to meet in the middle. My guests this hour are Juli Niemann, a financial analyst with Smith Moore and Company, and David Brown, who is host of the Business Wars podcast and Texas Standard. And we're asking you, how are high interest rates and inflation affecting your personal economy? Tolliver, what is that number again?
It's 8444 a middle. That's 844-464-3353. Come on, give us a call.
Give us a call or go to listentothemiddle.com where you can reach out to us online. And I encourage you to do that because the phone system, again, it's new. We're figuring it out as we go right now. I, by the way, want to welcome this week the listeners of LAist, formerly Southern California Public Radio, and KNPR Las Vegas, Nevada Public Radio. Great to have you with us as well. I want to ask David Brown, what other tools are available to policymakers like people at the Fed when thinking about trying to bring inflation down other than simply raising interest rates further?
Well, price controls come to mind. I don't know if how many of our listeners were around back in early 70s when meat prices began to spike. And there was a real huge inflation concern, and it wasn't at all clear how the U.S. would get out of it. President Nixon was in the White House, and he announced these at the time, very popular controls on the price of meat. It would fix it so that folks could afford it. Sounds great. But there are some real problems with price controls, and not the least of which, even though you do make certain goods and services more affordable, that can lead to some real distortions in the market. You can have producers who are taking it on the chin and still trying to make their business work. And you have a notable change in quality. Funny about that, right? I mean, you put a price cap on it, you can expect people to try to cut corners, and you end up with those sorts of distortions. So I think a lot of folks point to price controls, but I wonder if Juli has some other thoughts about ways to control inflation at that macro level.
Well, one of the key things the Fed has is monetary policy,
Of
because
course,
what they do is open market and market transactions. They have been loading up their balance sheet with mortgages, all kinds of stuff that would border on the definition of crap, unfortunately. They were buying so much of this to get so much money out to take care of the COVID problem and to keep people alive.
Right.
Now they're letting it run off, which is also giving problems in the credit markets because they're the single biggest owner of many sectors of the market.
Right.
They're letting it mature, they're letting it run off, but they also have some huge losses because they bought bonds with interest rates of 2%, 0.5%, and now we're up at 5%.
Julie,
so
don't make
that's
me use
one of
that.
the tools they have.
Don't make us use the 8-second delay button because of your language. But I think we actually have a call that got through to our system. Let me go to Bill in Tallahassee, Florida. Hi, Bill. Welcome to The Middle.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing great. Go ahead. Tell us how inflation and higher interest rates are hitting you.
Well, I've been renting a house for 5 years, and I was trying to buy it last November at $190,000, and now it's worth a lot more. But the interest rates at the time was like 4, and now they're at 8. So I can't afford the house. But my question is, how does raising interest rates, the federal government raising interest rates, help lower the
inflation?
Yes. I got a brain fart. I'm old. But I mean, it costs, if you raise interest rates, it costs everybody more money, including companies that borrow money to run their business. So how does raising interest rates help the economy? How does it lower the cost
inflation.
of living for everybody? Yeah, inflation. I just don't understand it.
All right.
Companies borrow money to run.
Yeah. Great question, Bill. Let's go to Juli Niemann on that one. Julie?
It's a crude but an effective tool. It kills demand. The best way to stop inflation is stop buying the stuff. We've never done that. We're a whole nation of I want it all, I want it now. And we're willing, as long as we've got a few extra coins in the jeans, to run out and buy it. But when you lose your job, when things get tough in the economy, you no longer have the money or the ability to buy it. And that's when you see all the prices starting to drop like a rock. If we had the discipline of substituting, of conserving, especially in energy, take the keys away from the kids, for crying out loud. Start making them use the bicycles that are in the place. Do things like mass transportation. I know that's anathema over middle America. We have cars as mass transportation. But start carpooling. There are 101 ways of conserving energy, and the neat thing about that is it's cheap. And it does kill demand. And you'll see prices coming down very effectively, which is exactly what they did before. The Saudis absolutely hate conservation. So it's a cheap one, a tool. Food the same way.
David, what about that question, though, from Bill in Tallahassee?
Yeah,
from your perspective?
I mean, I think it's a great question, and I think it's an important question. And I think a lot of people are a little bit afraid of admitting that they don't know when they hear. I mean, we constantly hear these headlines on the news. The Fed has increased interest rates, but I don't think we put two and two together. And I think it's a very fair and indeed a very important fundamental question for folks to understand. When the Fed believes that that conditions are overheated, and we may be headed into a situation where prices start to rise. One of the reasons that those prices rise is because there's money out there floating around and people are willing to pay for it. But then it reaches a certain pain point and people are no longer willing or able to pay for it. And that's where the Fed tries to step in somewhere there in the middle. And they raise interest rates to make it harder for they're trying to draw the money out of the market flows. They're trying to make it harder for those prices to rise, in effect, because you can't tell, for instance, suppliers to stop making things. But what you can do is try to decrease demand by making the availability of money more difficult. It becomes harder to borrow at the bank, for example, and that's supposed to cool down the economy. But here's the rub. People get hurt. It's a bit like, I think often about like interest rates like a kind of chemotherapy almost. It's like it's the drug that you need, but it's also toxic. And too much, if you go too high with those interest rates, it can really be deadly for the economy. And a lot of folks are really concerned right now, if the Fed continues to raise interest rates, at what point do you reach that danger zone? And a lot of folks think that we might be there at that danger zone right now.
Let's go to what we were getting in online. Lisa writes, I'm having to work more just to make ends meet with the high interest rates. I was getting ahead with paying down debt, but the high interest rates are making it harder. Any suggestions on how to tackle this, Julie?
Well, two things. First of all, inflation's a key factor, too. You being affected by interest rates means you probably have a floating rate mortgage, which is absolutely deadly. A really good idea is to try and get that into a fixed rate mortgage.
But right now, if you did that, you'd have a very high fixed rate mortgage, right?
You would, but the floaters go higher, and they can continue to go higher. So that's part of the anxiety there.
Man, I got caught in a 19% interest rate thing. I was much younger, and I was buying my first home, and this was back, I guess it would have been the early 90s if memory serves, and I got caught in one of those adjustable rate mortgage situations. Never again. Can you imagine? 19%?
Yeah.
It was just incredible. But
and you probably thought it was a good deal at the time.
Yeah, I mean, it was, to be honest, this is something that I think a lot of folks really need to pay close attention to. If how the mortgage rate market's reacting to what the Fed's doing. And we may have another adjustment this year. I think that seems to be a general consensus. There may be one more interest rate hike. But would you mind, Jeremy, if I ask Julie real quick? I know we're running out of time, but Julie, what's your take on what the Fed might do next? Do you believe that they're going to raise interest rates at that the next meeting?
The next one, I think, will be a tweak, but you have to remember that all the impact is delayed. We still haven't seen the full impact of all the rates that have gone in already. Right. They're going to take more of a wait and see. They would love to have the world's first soft landing.
Let's go to another call. Michelle is with us from Boston. Hi, Michelle. Welcome to The Middle.
Hi. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, tell us, do you have a question about this, or how is inflation and higher interest rates affecting you?
Yeah, I was just curious. I'm in the process actually of buying a house as we speak, and interest rates are about at 8%, as you were mentioning. And I'm just curious what the panelists think of if they're going to dip in 2024 and what the rates might look like maybe toward the end of 2024 as I'm thinking about hopefully refinancing.
Yeah, great question. Julie, you think what about the rates? Are they going to come down?
This is more prayer than and hope than what the actuality is. We're not going to know until actually we get there. I think the Fed is going to take their brake off the accelerator here, but the question is always going to be at what level will they be satisfied with inflation? If they decide 3% is not so bad, I think we're out of the woods. If they go hell-bent for leather on 2%, it's going to be a real problem. You're going to see interest rates go considerably higher.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've been hearing, certainly in the past couple of days, is that even though the Fed says it's not working toward a specific sort of target number, that they may settle for around 2.5%, which a lot of folks think will mean another small increase coming up in, I guess, what would it be, end of October, if I'm not mistaken?
Let's go to another message from coming in online. Nikki writes, with mortgage rates higher than they've been in decades, is a home purchase for a first-time home buyer an absolute no-go right now, David?
Say that one more time. I want to follow.
If you're a first-time home buyer, is a home purchase just a no-go right now?
Let me put it this way. I think that in situations like this, that old phrase, cash is king, I think that it's never been more true. I do believe that if in a situation, markets, what is the old saying? Markets abhor a vacuum, like nature does, I guess. And I think that as you see volatility and when you have people pointing in different directions, the bond markets have just been there are huge developments in the bond market that I think raise serious questions about whether we're headed toward a soft landing.
This podcast is supported by the original organic bedding and bath brand, Koyuchi. Koyuchi has spent 35 years pioneering quality organic textiles, long before the word organic became, trendy. But words matter to Koyuchi. Words like craftsmanship, longevity, and wellness. So what does the word wellness mean to Koyuchi? It means that all of our products are absolutely free from harsh chemicals and dangerous toxins that can seep into your skin. It means effortless style that looks as good as it feels with naturally breathable, pre-washed organic cotton. And what does all of that mean to you? Well, it means that you can sleep well in Koyuchi's crisp, cool, luxuriously soft sheets that are ethically made and made with you in mind. Live well, sleep well with Koyuchi. And now during our Memorial Day sale event, you can enjoy 20% off organic cotton sheets, towels, and everything else at Koyuchi.com. That's Koyuchi.com for 20% off from now until May 25th. Koyuchi.com.
Or whether we're going the scenic route to a recession. And as I was hearing Juli talk about how a lot of this is guesswork in terms of where the Fed's going to be, next year, I couldn't agree more based on everything that I'm hearing. I think your best solid bet is to preserve as much cash as you can. But of course, if you're sitting on the sidelines and you're not making good investments, then that too is a kind of loss of money. And so, the investments that you do make need to be wise ones. It's just that there's such an outlay right now for housing. Not knowing your particular circumstances, it's a little hard to offer advice, and I think a lot of folks would be very reluctant to say, here's what you need to do when it comes to making that first home purchase. Right now, if it were me, I'd be saving as much as I possibly could, and I'd be looking for longer-term investments with higher yields.
Mark writes into us at listentothemiddle.com. I was recently involved in a car accident. I'm an Uber driver, so having a car directly affects me earning money. My old car will be paid off as part of the settlement, but I can't get a replacement car right now. The higher interest rates and new loan requirements prevent me from getting financing. Juli, this is a really interesting question because I was looking up some of the numbers on this. If you're at the low end in terms of your credit score, you might get a subprime auto loan, and the rate on that is now 17.9%, which means that the monthly payment on a $43,000 loan for a new vehicle would be almost $1,000 a month. So how about how inflation is hitting the auto market and car loans?
Probably the biggest thing is that there is almost nothing available in the used car market, and that's what's impacting a lot of people. Nobody's moving up because here in the Midwest especially, we're cheap. We'll put a little more Bondo on the buggy rather than run out and buy another car. I drive a 2005 PT Cruiser. What do I know? But people hang on to things for a long period of time here. We love to have new stuff, but that keeps the used car market absolutely horrible. This young man is in a horrible pinch because there is no alternative for him. This is going to be a case of where he's going to have to change professions because he's not going to be out of the woods in this for some time.
Let's go to another call. Ben in Minneapolis is joining us. Ben, go ahead. Welcome to the middle.
Hello, long-time listener.
2 weeks you've been with us. Yes.
Second episode. Yeah, thanks.
Well, tell us your comment.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on how interest rates are affecting me, and one thing that was surprising to me this week was reviewing some of my student loan payments as they're resuming this month. Some of the student loans that were variable rate notes are at a higher interest rate than they were prior to the pandemic. So I guess my comment or question was some of the student loan reform that we're talking about, and even yesterday the Biden administration announced the $9 billion student loan cancellations. One thing that hasn't been talked about is around interest rates. And while I guess I'm one of the people that thinks if I borrowed it, I should be paying it all back. Mm-hmm. One thing that hurts is that now you're paying it back at a higher rate than before, where for many years those variable rate student loans were at a very low percentage.
Right. Ben, let me ask you, just while we have you on that topic, how do you, as somebody who's paying back your student loans, how do you feel about other people getting their loans forgiven? The
ones that are getting forgiven right now, they had been part of special programs that lead towards forgiveness. And so I think that participating in those programs is a really great benefit for a lot of those individuals.
Well, Ben, thank you for your
But
call.
a blanket forgiveness to everyone is obviously a little bit different because there's going to be different circumstances for each borrower.
Right. David, what about Ben's comment and question about student loans?
Yeah, what I would say is, first of all, if you can get lower rates, it's definitely worth exploring. So anything that you can do to lower the interest rate would be a good idea, but you need to be really careful of making sure that you check the rate on each loan in case you have multiple loans that are, all bundled by the same lender and that sort of thing. But something else that you want to make sure, if you possibly can, is to try to get something that's federally insured. Don't go with the first, loan consolidation offer that you come across, that kind of thing. And one other thing, don't stop at refinancing. Paying off the debt once and for all is a huge thing. And I'll tell you, the advice that they give you when you're 30 to start saving, perhaps these days that should be revamped to 20 or something, because the money just doesn't go as far as it once did. So I would say save as much as you possibly can and do everything that you can to try to bring that principal down, because that's just going to hang over your head.
That is David Brown of Business Wars and Texas Standard. We'll be right back in a moment with more of The Middle.
It's an Olympics you'll never forget. Prime time in Milan. The moments.
Chloe Kim with the gold medal flex.
The stars.
Ilya Malinin.
Out of this world.
The spectacle from beautiful northern Italy with very special guests every night of the Olympics. Experience the world's biggest show. Prime time in Milan, tonight 8/7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
Welcome to the A Building. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba. It's 1969. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. had both been assassinated, and Black America was at a breaking point. Rioting and protests broke out on an unprecedented scale.
In Atlanta, Georgia, at Martin's alma mater, Morehouse College, the students had their own protest. It featured two prominent figures in Black history, Martin Luther King Sr. and a young student, Samuel L. Jackson.
To be in what we really thought was a revolution. I mean, people were dying.
1968, the murder of Dr. King, which traumatized everyone.
The FBI had a role in the murder of a Black Panther leader in Chicago.
This story is about protest. It echoes in today's world far more than it should, and it will blow your mind.
Listen to the A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Ryder Strong, and I have a new podcast called The Red Weather.
It was many and many a year ago in a kingdom by the sea.
In 1995, my neighbor, Anna Trainer, disappeared from a commune.
It was hard to wrap your head around. It was nature and trees and praying and drugs.
So no, I am not your guru.
And back then, I lied to my parents, I lied to police, I lied to everybody.
There were years, Ryder, where I could not say your name.
I've decided to go back to my hometown in Northern California, interview my friends, family, talk to police, journalists, whomever I can, to try to find out what actually happened.
Isn't it a little bit weird that they obsess over hippies in the woods and not the obvious boyfriend?
They have had this case for 30 years.
I'll teach you sons of to come around here and my wife. Boom, boom.
This is The Red Weather. Listen to The Red Weather on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Segregation in the day, integration at night.
When segregation was the law, one mysterious Black club owner had his own rules.
We didn't worry about what went on outside. It was like stepping in another world.
Inside Charlie's place, Black and white people danced together. But not everyone was happy about it.
You saw the KKK?
Yeah, they was dressed up in their uniform.
The KKK set out to raid Charlie, take him away from here.
Charlie was an example of power. They had to crush him.
From Atlas Obscura, Rococo Punch, and Visit Myrtle Beach comes Charlie's Place. A story that was nearly lost to time Until now. Listen to Charlie's Place on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson. We're talking about high interest rates and inflation. My guests are Juli Niemann, a financial analyst with Smith Moore and Company in St. Louis, and David Brown of the Business Wars podcast. We are asking that question. Our number is 844-4MIDDLE. That's 844-464-3353. Or you can reach out to us at listentothemiddle.com. And I'm going to go to another call. This is Liz in Topeka, Kansas. Liz, welcome to The Middle.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going great. How is inflation feeling to you right now?
It's hurting. It's hurting a lot. I've got a family of 4, and I just, as soon as the money comes in, I head to the grocery store, and it's all spent. Just, it feels like you get 6 things, and you're looking at, $130 bill, and it's stuff that you've got to have. I've got to send my kids to school with lunch, and it's so expensive. You can't take a family of 4 out to eat anywhere and get a reasonably priced meal. But it's equally as expensive at the grocery store, so it's definitely hurting.
Do you feel like Washington, and I say that broadly, not just the Fed, but also the Biden administration and others in power, are doing everything they need to be doing to help you deal with those issues?
I hope so. I don't know what needs to be done. I don't know the best course of action. I just try and be as conscious as I can about my spending. I hope my representatives have my best interest in mind.
Well, thanks for that call, Liz. David Brown, price of groceries, that's where we notice it. Everybody notices it. I mean, I'm a turkey sandwich person at lunch, and the turkey price is outrageous now. It's like it's crazy.
It's been a while since I had some turkey, but I got some Fruit Loops the other day, and that's more my speed, Jeremy. And I noticed that the box has become it looks like a very thin book now. It's the shrinkflation is what we're talking about there. But boy, listening to that caller, I really felt that, and I totally understand what she's going through. And to be honest, something that has chafed at me is I'll hear a headline or a report on the news about how inflation has fallen to 2% or 3%, and I'm thinking, what? How can that 3%? I'm bleeding here.
Right.
And I think a lot of people are feeling that. And something that, I get why that incremental measurement of how much inflation we've seen over the past month or whatever that term is important and significant in terms of the data. But cumulatively, we're looking at, once you add up all of that inflation, that's what we're experiencing. So when we hear these headlines about, inflation now down, it sounds great. Yay. And I think in the long term, that's true. It's a good harbinger. But what we are feeling may very well run counter to what we're hearing on the radio. We're feeling the cumulative effects of all of that. And what I just heard from the caller there, shaking my head and thinking it's hard enough to just try to put food on the table, much less save. Mm-hmm. But if there is any way that you can put aside just a little, it will accumulate faster than perhaps you may think.
Well, and we talk about what we hear on the news. I think this is one of the points of this show, The Middle, is to bring the real human voice into exactly what's going on. Let's get to another call. Sharon is joining us from Fairview Heights, Illinois. Hi, Sharon. Welcome to The Middle.
Hi, Jeremy. I love the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All I can say is ditto to everything that the people have said so far. 2 things occurred to me yesterday, and I am a 76-year-old retiree. One, I went out to get my mail, and in the mail was a letter from my Medicare Advantage provider informing me that the copay on my prescriptions was going up by 10%. 10%, not the 3% inflation. I have yet to get information from the provider as to what my insurance costs are going to go up to, what my premiums are going to go up to. 2, I went out to Target yesterday and I got their brand, Target's brand's hot dog buns. The last time I bought those, they were $1.19. I paid $1.49. It's not just the inflation. These companies are making a fortune, in my mind, in my way of thinking. Not only that, but they're passing it on as being inflation. Not when you look at the earnings of the companies. They're doing mighty darn well.
Yeah, I just want to say that's a great point, Sharon, and Juli Niemann. The idea that, there's inflation that's caused by real economic forces, and then there's also companies that are taking advantage of the situation. And people talk about, the price of gas all the time in this way that, they just raise the prices because they can, because everybody's used to paying more. Julie?
That's exactly right. They raise the prices because they can. And the only time they'll stop is when demand falls off. And that's the problem. We're not there yet. People are still buying and still buying. It's erroneous to really report inflation as being down, 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 because they always leave out the two most volatile sectors, food and energy. Well, what do we consume? Food and energy. So it's really misleading as to what it is. But again, this is a situation where, because this is America, this is basically freedom to mark whatever price you want until people stop buying. So yes, as a corporate greed, every single food processing company is making money like crazy, hand over fist. And by the way, a lot of that is not going to the farmers. They're in the same pinch we're in. They have very high costs. They're not getting the benefit that the food processing companies are. So if you want to point a finger, it's the processors.
I have to say,
go ahead,
forgive
David.
me for interrupting, but I have to add in, since we brought up cars before, I think it's worth noting something, and maybe some of the listeners have some thoughts about this, but I know that we're seeing something very different and interesting happening in the new car marketplace that's having a profound effect on used cars. Right now, well, during the pandemic, there was a lot of money out there floating around because of pandemic checks and people using their discretionary spending, and in fact, there was a lot of saving going on at the same time because there was more money out there in the system, especially with those checks. It's my understanding that, based on best estimates, all of that savings has been almost completely spent down, and that goes directly to inflation. But a big part, transportation, big part of this factor. What Detroit seems to be doing at this juncture is they seem to have come to the decision based on the supply chain issues that we saw during the pandemic. It appears that what they're doing is they're moving to a new model. Instead of selling large volumes, that they're talking about reducing the number of units sold and increasing the value or the cost, the price, I should say, of different vehicles. And if you go out to a new car lot, you'll see cars that are spec'd out to the nines, absolutely maxed, and prices matching it. And you'll also even see market adjustments that's supposed to reflect the increased pressure of inflation in a particular market. Who's going to be able to afford that $80,000, $90,000 pickup truck? Well-heeled people who are doing well in this situation. Who can't come close? Most folks can't come close. And so that's driving up the marketplace in used vehicles, and the used cars are selling out, and now we're sort of down to the ones that are just sort of limping along. It's not quite that bad, but a lot of dealers say it's
off Broadway.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
Let's go to another call. Patricia in Atlanta is with us. Hi, Patricia. Welcome to The Middle.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. I was just concerned about my 401k that is taking a beating. And so I wanted to get maybe some advice. I left the previous employer, but that's where my 401k is. But I noticed that it keeps going down and down. Can you speak to this, please?
Juli Niemann, 401k is going down and down.
Well, that was September. September was one of the worst months we've had. It was down about 5%. If you looked in the year 2022, it was a catastrophe. The average balanced portfolio was down 17-18%. So we recovered from that. We started moving ahead this year, but September we got clocked. We're kind of moving our way back a little bit now, but that's part and parcel of the market. You go through corrections, excesses are burnt off. If you have a well-diversified portfolio, one thing you do need to do is review what kinds of stocks and bonds and everything your portfolio is in. Maybe you need to go out and roll that 401k over into a self-directed IRA you'll have the world from which to choose rather than just what that employer is willing to pay for. So take a look at that. Have somebody, a professional, take a look at what your 401k is doing. They may be doing a great job. It's just the cycle of the market, but at least you'll know if you can make some good improvements or not, if it's being done efficiently.
Let's go to Gary in Las Vegas, Nevada. Gary, welcome to you.
Hello there.
Hi. Tell us how inflation and higher interest rates are affecting you.
Well, I'm on the sort of the opposite of what most people have said. We have a fair amount of money. We're retired, and higher interest rates for us mean that we get a nice return on our our savings, whether it's in a CD or government bonds, that type of thing. For first time in, golly, it's been 40 years or so.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum, and for me, it's a good thing.
David Brown, there's always winners and losers in everything economically, and it is true. A savings account is doing a lot better now than it used to be.
That's true. But I was listening to the caller talking about investments in stocks and bonds, and bond market looking a little scary past few days. Might be worth taking a closer look at what your yields are and whether or not your bonds are performing well. But I totally take that point. I mean, I think for people who did make smart investments, especially during the pandemic period, and played it a little cautious, I think things are going considerably better for them than for lots of everyday folks.
Ryan is joining us from Chicago, Illinois. Ryan, welcome to you.
Thank you for taking my call tonight.
Great to have you. Tell us what's on your mind.
Well, I'd like to share an anecdote. I'm a high school teacher for Chicago Public Schools, and I teach government. And some of my students, we were discussing inflation, and several of them hypothesized that the quality and quantity of the school food portions have diminished as inflation has increased. They've noted that some of the things that Michelle Obama championed, such as fresh fruit and vegetables, have disappeared. The food actually tastes more disgusting over a 2-year period. And I can't help but think that as inflation has increased, nutritional intake has deflated. And, that there's, long story short, they pointed out to me they thought there was a correlation between inflation increasing and the quality of the school food decreasing, which is pretty difficult considering that you're already starting at a pretty low bar.
David Brown, you're laughing there, but I will say, there are some restaurants that I've noticed that the portions are smaller. That's for sure.
Ain't no doubt about that. I think a lot of that sort of depends on who the contractor is with, school food programs and that sort of thing. But yeah, I definitely hear that, and I do think that some corners are being cut there, and profits being taken, as they say. But one thing is always going to be the same. We can count on it for sure, and that's that students will not like their lunches at school. So there we are. At least we can take some solace in that.
Ida in Louisiana writes to us, at one point I was able to get debts paid off. However, I can barely keep up. I realize I'm not the only one that is financially stressed and challenged. That's for sure. Tyler in Utah says, I ended up unemployed during COVID and was forced to default on almost $10,000 in debt. While my credit score is still around the 600 mark, I can't get approved for financing to pay back debt, but I still get pre-approved offers from creditors in the mail. Why do creditors give folks like me false hope, Julie? Why do they do that?
It's all wonderful marketing. And yes, do they do a credit check on you? No, when they're sending out those circulars, it's a blanket mailing. Once you start filling out the applications, then they put on the green eye shade.
Let me see if I can squeeze in one more call here. Guy is calling from Birmingham, Alabama. Guy, go ahead.
Hey, thank you for taking my call. I almost hate to bring this up because it is kind of morbid, but, during COVID, a lot of older people died, which means there was probably a lot of inheritance passed down, and that's a lot of cash injected into the economy. How much influence do you think that might have on inflation?
David Brown?
It's hard to say. That's an interesting observation. I'm not sure I would know how to quantify that. Julie?
At this point, a lot of the people who died were not that old. We saw a lot of people in their 50s and 60s die who had not amassed a large, estate as it goes. So you can't count on old folks for your inheritance. Bottom line is what it comes down to. Medical bills chewed everything up. So it's not going to have any impact at all really on inflation.
Just in the 30 seconds or so that we have here, though, I want to ask, because he brings up COVID. David, how much do you think COVID has to do with the inflation that we're seeing right now?
I think the political response to COVID has a lot to do with what we're seeing right now. I think that the free flow of money, we may have been saved a catastrophic depression, who knows, given the fall off of economic activity during COVID. But I think that a lot of what we're seeing is related. And supply chain issues causing a huge rethink of how a lot of industries do business.
Julie, briefly to you on that.
Oh, it's not just COVID that has long tail. The disease itself does, but also the economic effects that have very long tail effects going on here. One of the big things that we're going to be seeing is basically how long-term debt is restructured. We're going to be seeing a whole area of how do you invest for the future when you have catastrophic incidences. Mm-hmm. You're going to see portfolio changes. But we came off of a period of 30 years when bonds were speculatively priced. This is a new era.
All right, we have time for one more thing to kind of lighten the mood here a little after some of the difficult stories that we've gotten from callers about how inflation is hitting them. Tolliver, what's next?
First off, I just want to say, Julie, if you taught a class on Midwest colloquialisms, I would take it no matter how inflated the price. The green eye shade, I'm obsessed.
Yeah.
The game I have for you all is called Whose Drumline Is It Anyway? Anyway, I'm going to play a famous drumline by a famous singer, super famous song. You guess the song and the singer, and you win a mug from the middle, made by me, by hand.
All right, let's do it. Let's hear it. Go ahead, Julie, David.
Well, should I just jump in here? I feel this is unfair.
The buzzer.
In the air tonight, Phil Collins.
There you go. David wins. David wins a mug. Now we've got to make mugs. Okay.
Give me a couple months. I got you.
Well, I want to thank my guest, David Brown, host of the podcast Business Wars and Texas Standard. David, it's so great to have you on the show.
Well, great to be invited. Thanks so much. I enjoyed it.
And Juli Niemann, financial analyst with Smith Moore and Company in St. Louis. Julie, great to have you as well.
Thanks.
And thanks to our DJ Tolliver and to Colorado Public Radio for hosting him this week. Join us next week, same time, same place. Tolliver, what is our topic for next week's show?
Are America's political leaders too old?
Ooh, now you notice we say leaders. We are not talking about just President Biden or Donald Trump or Mitch McConnell. We're talking about all of them. And the reason we're giving you that question now is because not everyone is listening to the show live, but we want to hear from you either way. You can reach out at 844-4MIDDLE, leave us a voicemail, or call in live next week. Or you can go to listentothemiddle.com and drop us a line. While you're there, you can also sign up for our weekly newsletter. The Middle is brought to you by Long Nook Media and produced by Joanne Jennings, John Barth, Harrison Patino, and Danny Alexander. Our digital producer is Charlie Little. Our technical director is Jason Croft at Illinois Public Media. Our theme music was composed by Andrew Haig. Thanks also to Nashville Public Radio, iHeartMedia, and the more than 370 public radio stations that are making it possible for people across the country to listen to The Middle. I'm Jeremy Hobson. Talk to you next week.
Over the last couple years, didn't we learn that the folding chair was invented by Black people because of what happened in Alabama?
The Montgomery Brawl.
This Black History Month, the podcast Selective Ignorance with Mandy B unpacks Black history and culture with comedy, clarity, and conversations that shake the status quo. The Crown Act in New York was signed in July of 2019, and that is a bill that was passed to prohibit discrimination based on hairstyles associated with race. To hear this and more, listen to Selective Ignorance with Mandy B from the Black Effect Podcast Network on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
1969, Malcolm and Martin are gone. America is in crisis. And at Morehouse College, the students make their move.
These students, including a young Samuel L. Jackson, locked up the members of the Board of Trustees, including Martin Luther King Sr. It's the true story of protest and rebellion in Black American history that you'll never forget. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba.
Listen to The A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Ryder Strong, and I have a new podcast called The Red Weather. In 1995, my neighbor, Anna Trainer, disappeared from a commune.
It was nature and trees and praying and drugs.
So no, I am not your guru.
And back then, I lied to everybody.
They have had this case for 30 years.
I'm going back to my hometown to uncover the truth. Listen to The Red Weather on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Saturday, May 2nd, country's biggest stars will be in Austin, Texas at our 2026 iHeart Country Festival presented by Capital One. Tickets are on sale now. Get yours before they sell out at Ticketmaster.com. That's Ticketmaster.com.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.